Hey everybody, this one's gonna be a little bit different. I know normally it's been automotive projects or working on the house on this channel, but another thing I'm into is music, recording guitars and stuff. So there's gonna be probably more videos like this in the future. If you're not into them, that's fine. Come back for the cars later, but some people might find this stuff useful. Today I'm going to, well, as you can see, I'm at work. I work out on the river, and I brought a guitar with me that I picked up for 50 bucks. And I've got a cheap vintage Bigsby style tremolo, one of the Chinese knockoff ones I'm going to install on it. Show you how to make a really cheap Rockabilly twang machine for under 100 bucks really. So hope you like it. Okay, so this is the $90 Glarry Telecaster style guitar. I actually got it for a little bit cheaper because I was trying to order the semi-hollow version from a third-party seller on eBay, and they sent me this instead. And rather than pay to have me ship it back, they just offered to let me keep it for a half refund, which ended up being like 50 bucks. So I was into this guitar for about $50, and I really thought, well, that would be perfect to put a fake Bigsby on it because it doesn't have a string through body. Which if you normally convert like a string through Telecaster style guitar to Bigsby, then you've got those holes. So I thought, well, that'll be cool. You could just modify the bridge and put the vibrato on behind it, but since I was into it for so little, I kind of splurged and bought a few extra parts. But you can just Dremel around it, which I'll explain later. But overall, it's a real decent guitar, especially for $50. Even at $90, it's probably worth 2 or 3 times that. The neck is really unfinished. If that's not your thing, then you won't care for that, but pretty decent intonation at the nut, not so much at the 12th fret, but that's to be expected with something this price range. And the finish is a little bit thin. It scratches pretty easy, I found out, but overall really solid. Standard Tele parts fit it. It's real light. It's supposed to be basswood on the body. I'm not sure if that's right or not. It might be that lighter palo, however you pronounce it, wood, but it's super light. I had a Mexican standard basswood that felt a lot heavier than this, it seems. But overall, pretty decent. This is the knockoff Chinese Bigsby. You can get them for like $23. I paid a few dollars extra to have one that was shipping from the United States, so I just wouldn't have to wait for it, for a month to get here. But it feels like pretty close to a real one. It's heavy, it's substantial. The spring is a little big. I might end up cutting the spring down just to get that arm down to where I'd like it. But overall, I am definitely pleased with the workmanship. I ordered this so I wouldn't have to Dremel the bridge for mine. This comes with the 3 saddle like vintage style, so you could just Dremel around it and have the same thing as this. But I also splurged on the Goda like in-tune compensated saddles since I was into the guitar for so cheap. You could just use what's in it and Dremel around it, but I'm splurging a little bit. And while I'm at it, I got some of this guitar shielding paint. I think StewMac has it for some kind of exorbitant amount of money, but I picked up this little kit here for like 12 bucks on eBay. It comes with the paint and like a little grounding strap. I don't remember where you're supposed to put that in, so I'm probably not going to install that now, but I'll keep it so that if I do get some buzz, I can handle it. And it comes with this nifty little paintbrush, so that I'm going to get all the cavities painted in this thing. Took the strings off. The nut, while it stays intonated to the area, the nut is not pretty. It's probably the weakest looking part of the guitar, but like I said, the neck is very not finished. Probably need to oil it up a bunch, but some people like it. I like the back of it not finished. The front, I might have to oil a little bit. Anyway, got the screws out of this and gonna see what's underneath, how bad it is, and I was pleasantly surprised because I've opened some guitars that were not as cheap as this one that were just filled with painted in sawdust and all kinds of nasty mess in this cavity. And it's also cool that it's a real big routing, so that if you want to upgrade and go full Rockabilly with this Rockabilly guitar, you could put in a Gresh style pickup or a humbucker or whatever you want in there. It's not routed just to the single coil, so I actually really like that. Electronics seems simple enough. Yeah, I'm just going to get in here and sand this real good, just so I can paint that shielding paint on it. And we'll open up the other cavities and see if all of them are as clean as this. I'm pretty happy with this one here, to be honest with you. Alright, under the control plate we have a bit of an issue. It's hidden by the control plate itself, but there's a big chunk out of the finish there. I'll probably just paint over it with the shielding paint just so that it doesn't ever show, but yeah, it's still pretty clean inside the cavity itself. It's just that big chip of wood off right there is kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. It's a $50 guitar, so you got to expect something like that, you know. Electronics are really clean though. I don't know what the quality is like, but the welding is really, not welding, soldering is real spot on and a lot cleaner than some of the stuff you see at this price range. And overall, kind of pleasantly surprised with how clean the guts of this thing are, with the exception of that little chip there. But so far so good, really, if I'm being honest. That is a bummer though. Oh well. Alright, now to remove the bridge and see what's going on under here. And just like before, it looks like it is actually fairly clean. There's actually a bit of a paint finish in there. You can see it's just got the paint overspray and then the lacquer overspray probably, but I'll just get in there with some sandpaper and just rough it up, you know, not go crazy on it, but just rough it up enough to take the shielding paint real easy. I've never used this shielding paint. I don't know how thick or thin it goes on, but I want to make sure and give it a good surface, good rough surface to cling to when I get in there with it. Alright, so here I am in the, I'm actually on the boat. I work for a towboat company, and this is the chief engineer. He's been hooking me up with the tools to do this, and this is this nice little box with different level grits of sandpaper. So I'm going to use those, and probably also while I'm in here with the heavier grit getting the inside of the cavities, I'm probably going to go ahead and take off that Glarry name brand off the headstock. And nothing against you, Glarry. I'm really glad that you're providing these affordable guitars, but it just looks a little bit more custom, you know, if you sand that off. But yeah, it's a decent guitar. There we go. You see it a lot of times those water slides come off with just a very light touch. That one I actually had to lean into a little bit, and you can tell that I sanded it off. But you can get like $5 you know, water slides custom off of eBay, saying whatever you want. And in here I just sanded it up real good, and so it's ready for the paint. And this shielding paint, what it'll do is sometimes if you've ever touched a guitar and it buzzes, or if your phone goes off and it just makes that awful noise, this is supposed to reduce any of that electrical hum. A lot of these cheaper guitars won't have any of this done because it's, you know, a process. You see it there on my thumb. It comes on like feels like you're painting pencil lead or graphite. As soon as it hit my thumb, it was just stuck there. But it goes on a little bit thinner than I thought, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's definitely coating. It definitely penetrates, but it's not as thick and goopy as I kind of expected it to be. So you can put definitely. I'd put 2 coats on this, but you could probably with that one bottle get 4 or 5 coats if you just wanted to go crazy. And apparently each coat kind of increases your shielding factor substantially. It dries a little slower than you would think as thin as it goes on, but it's still, I'd say between coats I gave it 30-40 minutes, and it seemed to do pretty good. Here this is about 30-40 minutes after. You can see it's still wet in the corners. I ended up doing 2 coats and then calling it good because I was anxious to just get moving on down the road. You probably want to tape off these wires and stuff if you cared. I didn't. I also got into this jack hole here because it's I didn't think it was that big, but it was pretty decent sized and got in there too. And this is just a trick that I learned when my strap button always broke off when I was a teenager, and it would always fall off, during a show or something, and I could never figure out how to get that button back in there. And if you just jam a toothpick in it and break it off and then repeat, whenever you put the screw back in, it'll give it like new wood to grip onto, so that like your strap button, if it wallers out that hole to where it's real loose, you can always break a bunch of toothpicks off in it and then put the screw back in, and a year later I have to do the same thing. So since I had this all apart anyway, I decided to go ahead and toothpick all of the holes for the bridge and the pick guard and the control plate and everything else, so that when I put the screws back in, it's real good and solid. One of my concerns was that this wood is very light and therefore probably soft, so I didn't want to have a bunch of loose screws falling out or just stuff moving around. So by breaking off toothpicks and all these holes, makes it a little bit harder to put the screw in, but it's all firmly set in there whenever you put all the stuff back together. And I'll be doing the same thing when I drill the holes for the Bigsby. But yeah, this is just something you don't have to do, but it's something I've always done ever since I figured it out when I was a kid. Just kind of helps everything stay in there nice and snug. Alright, here we've got it all put back in there. I got the new bridge installed. You can see it's kind of scalloped around these. That's so the strings can pass by and go to the Bigsby. Like I said, you could definitely use the original bridge and just get you a Dremel tool and kind of try to match this pattern. As you can see, it goes straight across. The strings would not be able to pass through, but since you've got that 3-saddle setup on the regular Glarry bridge, you could just Dremel around that, match what I've got going on here, use those saddles. They won't stay as in tune as my expensive ones, but it would totally work. You could just slap the vibrato on and just modify the bridge and you'd be in business. But I just splurged a little bit on this scalloped one. I don't remember, it was $15 or something like that on eBay, and got everything screwed back in nice and tight, ready to get to the fun part. Looking pretty sharp so far. Alright, so what I did here is I wanted to make sure to kind of get the vibrato in the right spot, so I measured the width of that bridge, which was right around 3 inches, and so I wanted to put like a line where the middle is, because it definitely doesn't line up with the strap button on this guitar. So I just found that middle, used a square, and then just dropped me a temporary line so that I could see where that lines up. And then I got the tailpiece, the vibrato, and decided to measure it like kind of width-wise and put a couple lines on it just as a guide to line this thing up on that line on the guitar. It's a little bit wider, but I lined it up, not like exact or anything, just trying to get it to where it'll all line up correctly, and it was close enough, good enough for this. Probably make a real luthier cringe. But then I got a rag and I just C-clamped the whole thing on there so it wouldn't move around on me too much. And then I am gonna get little punches and a hammer. But before that, I set up this drill and I put tape on it at the depth of the screws so that I wouldn't drill too far. So when I was drilling my holes, I would stop at the tape, and that let me know that I wasn't drilling too far, because the wood's real soft and you don't want to go through it or give it too much, So I drilled and it went in real easily. This is incredibly soft wood, so you want to go real nice and slow, back it out real easy. It seems like it would be pretty easy to screw this up, but it just went in like nothing, like it was just like drilling a hole in butter. But yep, there we have the holes. I guess I skipped recording it, but I did, while it was clamped down there, I did use a little punch and a hammer to just make my hole marks, so that I knew where I was drilling, so I wasn't actually drilling through the tailpiece, which would have just, it could have slid or something. So I just got my little dots and hammered in there, and then drilled the holes. And of course, toothpicking it, making sure that it's nice and snug when I install this. You can see right there it lines up because I punched all those holes first, drilled them, toothpicked, and now it's ready to get screwed down. Went ahead and used the drill on this. Probably not the best idea, because out of the 4 screws, one of them definitely felt like it might have just been spinning at the end there, because like I said, it's real soft wood. So probably a smarter idea to just use a screwdriver and make sure that you're not stripping anything out. But I would definitely recommend, if you're doing this on one of these Glarry guitars with this soft wood they've got, definitely use the toothpick trick to make sure you've got snug hardware all around. Now I'm here in the control room of the engineering section of the ship, or the boat, and here she is. Like I said earlier, that arm sticks up a little bit higher than I would like it to, so I'm probably gonna do, I guess I didn't have it strung up here yet, but yeah, this spring, whenever you string it up, the tension will pull it down, but it still stays a little bit high for my, here you see it strung, it's a little bit high. So I'm probably going to take that spring there and chop a loop off of it and try to get that arm down about 1 inch. But stringing these is a nice little chore. There's a capo trick on YouTube somewhere you can see, and I almost had it set up to the left a little bit too much, to where that high E didn't want to go in there, but I made it. But here you have it. Like, you could be into this for about $110 and have yourself a nice twangy rockabilly guitar setup via Glarry. Overall, pretty impressed with these cheap little guitars, and it's really perfect for doing a project like this where you want to modify something really a real Bigsby costs $150 minimum, so less than 110 and you could be into this thing here. Anyway, thanks for watching, and catch you next time.